afternoon to everyone. My name is Kriti Shroff, and I'm a leading career counselor, and I co-founded the organization Careers with Kriti back in 2015. Today, here we are with our special webinar called Career Discovery, where we will be inviting 10 different industry professionals, and each of our following videos will be talking about one industry and one career with a leading professional from that space. So we bring to you more knowledge and more content to a very different career from what we've discussed till now. So here we have with us Ms. Soumya Khati. She started her journey with a business management degree in HR from IMT Ghaziabad. And Soumya started her career with Tata Group and since then has worked with many leading brands, including Perfetti, Coca-Cola, Gap, Yum Brands, and is currently working as SVP HR Shiprocket, which is Bigfoot Retail Limited. And to all the audience, I would like to say that me and Soumya, we share a long history of going back to the same college, living in the same hostel. Our rooms were right across each other, Soumya, if I remember it correctly.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, that is correct.
Superb. So thank you once again, Soumya, for accepting my request so generously and sharing your time to come and share your thoughts and experiences with students and parents here. So my first question to you, Soumya, is what is human resource management? When we talk about this career to students and parents, there is a vague understanding. So we would want you to throw some light on what is this career and what kind of work is typically done by a person who's responsible in this role.
Sure. Happy to answer that, Kriti, and a very warm welcome to all the parents and students. Hope all of you are well. Now, HR, you see, is a department, as is commonly known in the industry, in any business. Now, the fundamental reason a business exists is to create value. This could be value in terms of fiscal or non-fiscal terms. Simply put, businesses exist to be profitable, to make money. There is a business model. You either sell a product or you sell a service. You could be a brick and mortar company or you could be a tech-based company. But essentially, all businesses have a single person of, creating wealth, either for the owner or for the shareholders or for the investors. Now, these businesses, depending on, how long they've been around, how far they are from inception. Inception means forming of a company or starting of a business. An early stage business could have fewer people. A late stage business could have thousands and thousands of employees in one country or across continents. Now, HR is a function that manages all people in a business. So the purpose of HR is to ensure that the business has the right kind of talent across sales, across finance, across operations, across legal. We have the right people who can do a brilliant job of growing the business and keeping the business ahead of its competitors and reaching more audiences, right? So this is HR empowers through people. Now, what HR does largely is that it manages the entire employee life cycle. So what employee life cycle means, from the time of recruiting or hiring an employee, choosing CVs, conducting interviews, selecting, candidates, rolling out an offer or a fitment of salary, to ensuring that the employee joins us, to training and onboarding that employee to ensure that they understand the business functionally and they also understand and operationally, and they also understand our ways of working, so our values, our culture, and then ensuring that these employees have their goals written for them for the year. They know what they have to do. The goals are so clear and so metricized that progress can be measured. And then do a mid-year review, do an end-of-year review, give salary increments, basis those reviews, pay salaries on a monthly basis. Other than that, ensuring that there are enough women in the workplace, ensuring there's diversity of gender and of age, of regions, depending on what your organizational agenda is, managing employee experience, bringing in softwares or HR tech, because in today's universe, employees are sitting in distributed geographies. Some employees work out of office, some work out of their homes, and some work out of beaches and hill stations. So how are you connected, to all of those employees? So the ways of working have to be made digitized. Ensuring that employees are heard, their problems are solved, they're engaged, ensuring there is fun at workplace. So all of this largely falls under the ambit of HR. Of course, the government of India as an external body has laid down some labor laws to ensure that workers are protected, and HR's job is to ensure that we are compliant as an organization. There is no violation of labor laws, and that the HR head's focus is on ensuring that the employees are healthy in today's world of COVID and variants. They are safe, they are mentally stress-free, and that they can bring their best selves to work. So that is really the long and short of it. Our job is to get the right people to take the business goals further. Our job is to ensure that we have the right talent so that the org or the company is future ready. We have to prepare the business for 3 years from now. You have to study the trends in the market, which way is the labor market moving, which way are the macroeconomics moving. Is it going to be easier for companies to borrow money from lenders? Is it going to be tougher for the company to borrow? Because all companies work on borrowed money, and have to therefore return an ROI. So all of that, I would say, would be the responsibility of HR. Kriti, does that answer your question?
Absolutely, in a very detailed manner, and I think will give a lot of insight to students who are planning to get into the career. Now, my next question to you, Soumya, is that we all understand there are professional programs and MBA in HR management that is there in the industry, and that's how you began your career. What are the kind of skills that are required to excel in this, and what kind of skills should a student think that they have if they're wanting to choose a specialization in HR?
Sure. So skills, Kriti, can fall into two large buckets. There can be functional skills and then there can be behavioral skills. Functional skills could mean how good are you with numbers, because tomorrow if you have to manage rewards or if you have to manage stock options, and executive pay can be really high and really, really critical. Do you understand tax instruments, etc.? So that would be functional. Or planning and organizing. Are you good at organizing events? Because a large amount of your work, because you're dealing with people, is around organizing one event or the other, right? However, behaviorally, I would say the single most important strength is empathy. Are you able to sympathize? Are you able to understand the problem that an employee is bringing to you? And more than I think any other function within the business, HR is expected to be a problem solver for its people. A lot of times HR gets questioned on its practices, and employees bring a lot of their problems to HR to solve. The business leaders bring a lot of their problems to HR to solve, and there you have to be a true partner. You need to listen very well. You need to be very accepting of different points of view. You have to be a true diplomat, and solve those problems. You cannot come from a place of defiance or believe that there is only one correct way of thinking. So I would say empathy is a big one. Patience is a big one, because it is a public dealing job at the end of the day. Humility is a big one. If you're humble, if you can learn from your mistakes and other people's mistakes, if you can be accepting of people from different walks of life, because not everybody in a company, if you have 10,000 people, everybody has had the same upbringing. People come from different socio-economic backgrounds. People have had different educations. You will be dealing with the CEO or the CXO group that would be very, very well educated and very well traveled and, very mature. And you could also be dealing with blue collared laborers who have not had a good education, who are, at, let's say, at a very basic salary. So who do not bring a lot of maturity to the table. So if you can gel very well with a cross section of employees, and then of course there's mid-management, there are internal stakeholders, there are government bodies. So I think humility and being able to mix with everybody is going to be a big one. These I would say would be the top 2 or 3 skills that set apart an HR leader from any other business leader.
Fantastic. I think that was very well captured, Soumya. And definitely, I think empathy is one attitude or behavioral quality which will be required in a career like HR. Another important question that comes to my mind is that when we do consulting to students, and most of the students coming to us who want to maybe get into business management space are largely looking at marketing or finance. Most
Right.
of them. And this I think popularly comes from a background saying that there is a myth and there is a notion that marketing or finance tends to get better salaries. So is that true? And secondly, what are the kind of career trends that you see in HR management?
Got it. So, Kriti, I would say that this is, I think, this myth needs to be demystified and totally busted. This is not true at all. It's like, let me explain it to you this way. It depends on where you are, which industry and which business, right? If you're an investment banker, if you're in a financial consulting firm, then HR will take a back seat and will be a support function, and the finance guys will be the heroes and the main guys, right? And they will be lionized and they will get the best pay packages and they will get the limelight. If you're in an FMCG company, which is very sales focused, the sales guys will grow very fast and they will be lionized because they are essentially bringing the bacon home, or they are really running the company. In HR consulting firms or in large firms which employ a lot of people, HR does find its seat on the table. HR is lionized. HR, is the main guy. So now it totally depends on which industry and which business you're in, number one. Number two, I think it totally depends on the talent that you bring to the table. You can be a great marketing guy or you can be a shabby marketing guy. Similarly, you can be a great HR leader or you can be a struggling HR leader. And what you get out of the business, or so respect is really commanded and cannot be demanded. So I think really your importance is a function of what you bring to the table, how great a talent you are. And I do believe that this myth has existed for many years in the past. Unfortunately, in a country like India, the HR talent is not very great. When I look out for folks in my team, I really struggle. And that is because a lot of the good talent has gone to marketing or has gone to finance or has gone to sales. And they've not made a lot of inroads into HR. So HR talent in general tends to be a cut below, other functions. And therefore, this is becoming a self-fulfilling myth, and therefore the myth has perpetuated. But I think anybody who wants to be a sharpshooter, wants to build their career, wants to do well, I would welcome you to the HR fraternity and the community. Don't go by hearsay. My belief always is that you can be good and bad anywhere. It is what you bring into, it's like garbage in, garbage out. It's what you put into the function and into the role is what you get out of the function and out of the role, really. Now, from a career trends perspective, and this will not be limited to HR, but the larger industry. We've seen in recent times, a lot of startups have come up. The macroeconomic environment has been supportive. The government has focused on Make in India. The government has focused on entrepreneurship, and which is the right thing to do, because we're a large country of a lot of unemployed youth and a lot of young population. We have that demographic dividend, which means that we have more people who can be working and earning than children and elderly who can't be working, right? Unlike countries like Japan or the entire Europe. So given that reality, we can't expect only the government to create jobs, right? The government is a limited body and it can only have a limited number of people. And we can't expect European and American or Japanese or Korean companies to come into India and employ all our people. When you have so many people in the country itself, you have to have, co-founders and founders who are creating businesses in India and therefore can employ Indian people. We need to be more startup minded. We need to be more business minded. We need to do in India what happened in America, let's say 100 years back or 200 years back. This whole business boom needs to come in India. I think we have the wherewithal. We have very, very smart people coming out of, great colleges. So there's no dearth of talent really. So that has been happening. So you will see that from brands, a lot of good talent is now moving to the startup space. And these startups could be in the e-commerce space or logistics aggregation where I am, or food aggregation or anything. And the reality is that in the earlier days, if you were marketing or you were selling a product, you could only reach a limited audience. But the digital revolution today, so many Indians have a phone. Even your maid at home or even the rickshawala has a phone, has YouTube, has WhatsApp. So the reach and the digital penetration has, I would say, amplified so much that today a digital, business can reach anybody. Whereas a shop or a brick and mortar business that operates out of a shop has only a limited reach. So tech is becoming a very high demand talent today. Engineers and backend developers and front stack developers. There's a lot of news in the social media around, a lot of opportunities in this space. And I think this is a trend that will continue for the next 3 to 5 years. But this is a phase. My belief is that jobs exist across the spectrum, irrespective of, especially if you're in business or if you're in management, jobs exist across the board. FMCG needs sales guys, we need CAs, we need lawyers, we need, marketing folks, we need HR folks. I think the students' focus should be to pick an area of interest, which, they can, where their heart lies, and then to make a damn good job of it. I think it really boils down to how great you are, irrespective of where you are, rather than, just going by trends, because the trends will come and go. By the time, this crop of students graduates, there will be a new trend in the industry. So I would request, and my submission would be, do not follow trends. Pick what you really like to do, because trust me, I've been in HR for 17 years and I've loved my job. I've been kicked about. I get up in the morning, I jump out of bed and I want to go to work. And that should every day be. You shouldn't feel 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line that, this is not it. I think that would be a problem.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very common thread, Soumya, that we've heard from almost all speakers. We had 10 professionals coming to us last year as well. And today, this is our third session. And I think this is just the common thread that each and every professional has shared, that, you just need to be excited about what you're doing. You need to do it well. And no matter what space you are in, you could be an engineer, doctor, marketer, architect, image consultant. We had a nutritionist starting the day for us. whatever career you are in, if you're doing well in that particular space, you will be able to create your own niche and your own space under the sun. So it's better to be good at what you're doing rather being just an average or not so good person in maybe a career which you think so could have done well for you.
Yeah, and if I can just add another line to that, Kriti, I would request students to pick up things that they are great at, because whatever you're strong at, you enjoy doing it, and it builds your confidence even further. And then your skill level automatically goes on increasing there. Do not pick up a job or a career which looks glamorous or which looks high paying. If you're not naturally strong at it, or if you think it is very unnatural for you, because there should be a natural fit in terms of what you do. And secondly, irrespective of whichever job you choose and how excited you are about your job, there will be days which will be not good days, where you'll feel you're stuck, nothing is moving, you'll feel sluggish, things will not go per plan. There will be failures, big or small, and you'll feel that, what am I even doing? But trust me, resilience as a quality will really get you far. In the long term, people who succeed are people who stay put, people who can be disciplined, who can get up every day and show up every day with the same amount of energy and with the same amount of courage, irrespective of what kind of night they've had the previous day. Those are the people who really win in the long term, irrespective of where you're at.
Absolutely. I think, Soumya, I'm glad you brought this point that, resilience is something which is very important, because I think doing what you're doing and continuing to do what you're doing. So persistence and having that resilience and the ability to bounce back the next day is something that is very, very important, with the ability to adapt, because things are changing at a very rapid rate, and especially with the help of technology. What is true may not be true tomorrow, and by the time you all graduate out of universities and colleges, there might be an absolutely new world. Who thought that there could be an industry completely driven on e-commerce? I mean, growing up when we didn't even have cell phones when we were growing up, and by the time we got into the industry, we saw there was a complete new vertical that had stood up. So adaptability, resilience are some key important things for the generation to cope up. And I think another important part is continuous learning, Soumya.
Yes.
That is something that we all need to, in our professions, learn to get into, that we need to continuously upgrade in whatever we are doing, because there are new things coming up every now and then. My next question to you, Soumya, is what does your typical day look like in your career or in your field?
So my typical day would be divided into, I would say, 3 or 4 large parts, right? One would be planning. I would have planned the previous day or the previous week in terms of my calendar is already full almost a week ahead of time, because I think after a certain point in your career, especially if you have a large team or if you have a large portfolio, planning is everything, right? And plans can change, but you can't start without a plan, right? So my calendar would be planned out in advance. I would have some thinking time in the morning for my larger strategic projects. Then there would be business meetings with stakeholders where I'm trying to pick their mind, or where they're trying to ask me for solutions to their people problems. I would have meetings with my team members to either brief them on a certain project or to review work that they have done. And it typically takes 3 to 4 reviews with senior professionals in my company, in my team, for their projects to go ahead. Then there would be some curveballs which are completely not planned, some business exigencies, 3 to 4, could be big or small. This could be triggered by, the market or the industry does not give the CEO a lot of elbow room. So the CEO cannot give his direct reports or his CXO team a lot of elbow room. So then the team people like me cannot give a lot of elbow room to our people. So you have to be, and what I mean by that is that your response time to what's happening in the industry has to be very, very smart. It has to be very, very agile. You need smart solutions and you need quickly, and some of it comes from learning, some of it comes from experience. A lot comes from reading, keeping a pulse on the market. So I have subscribed to a couple of digital magazines, and I'm on several CHRO or HR group WhatsApp. I keep getting text messages. It's very important to have a pulse on what other folks are doing, other HR folks are doing in different businesses, because you will not have the time to create all solutions yourself. Sometimes you will just pick another, elegant solution that somebody else has created and customize it to your business, if that is what the need is. You will have to be very, very ready from a market readiness standpoint. And what I mean by that is you have to continuously follow market trends. I have to, because people is a function which is not plug in and plug out. If, let's say, tech is becoming a big trend, or let's say tomorrow digital marketing becomes a big trend, and we need to put a team together, I can't hire people overnight. I can't have a team of 20 join me overnight. There will be manpower planning, there will be phasing, and hiring will take time, offers will take time, people will serve their notice periods in previous companies, and then they will come and join. So there will be a turnaround time. Similarly, for projects around compensation or performance management. So one has to follow trends, and one has to predict the future and also create the future. So I would say that part of my job is strategy. A large part of my job is execution and taking people with me. I have to align a lot of leaders and a lot of folks internally in terms of what we are planning to do. Because the HR functions, whatever we do cuts across, it influences practically every last man standing in the org. So, you have to be great at aligning folks, or taking them with you, or telling them what you're planning to do and picking their minds in terms of their inputs and dovetailing those inputs into your projects. And then you have to, of course, manage your team. And lastly, most importantly, manage your own mind. Ensure that as a leader, you have, you are stress-free, you are healthy, you are calm, because burnout can happen very quickly in such a fast-paced environment. So taking care of yourself is a very large part of your agenda. And I think that is largely where my day is spent. If that answers your question, Kriti.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now I would like to throw open the chat box to the students, and I already have few questions in my chat box. So Soumya, first question that a student has asked is that what kind of undergraduation degree or program can go in well if I'm looking to do masters in HR business management?
So there is no formula to this one. Ideally, so I would divide the world into two groups of people, or three actually. People who are book smart, people who are street smart, and people who are both. Ideally, street smartness or worldly knowledge comes from experience. So it's usually a good idea to at least begin your career with being book smart, which means having the right degree or having the right education. So definitely a good postgraduate program in HR can educate you on the right models and the right, a lot of theory, a lot of 200 or 300 years of research, which is proven and which is successful in the field of HR, is actually condensed into a 2-year HR program, and you learn labor laws, which are very, very critical. So it's usually a good idea to get a postgraduate degree in HR for sure. For an undergraduate degree, you could pretty much do what you want. I did my English honors from Delhi University. I was actually following a very different career track before I fumbled into HR. My sense is, and I've seen folks in HR who come from economics degrees or from commerce degrees. I've seen people who come from engineering backgrounds, and their trade was mechanical or civil. which could be quite unrelated. And I think it actually works better because it gives you a lot of range. Having a graduate program, you don't need to have, if you're doing a post-graduation in HR, it's not necessary for you to do a BBA or, an HR focused program. You could pretty much do anything. Do what will stretch your horizons and excite you. Get a degree where you will be able to, both enjoy it and also get good marks. And typically those two happen simultaneously. If you're not enjoying something, it's difficult to get good marks in it. Having said that, of course, there is no formula for success. You could not have a degree and still do very well in HR. We've seen a lot of business leaders who move from sales or finance into HR. And who did a stupendous job because, they had those range of competencies where they could, pick up very quickly and learn very quickly and deliver on the job. So like I said, it's totally up to you. Also, an additional input will be, don't sweat too much if you don't know what to do. A lot of children today, or at least a lot of youngsters today, could be good at multiple things, could enjoy a lot of things. They just don't know whether they want to be lawyers or they want to be doctors or they want to be in HR. And usually they're confused between 2 or 3 streams. Trust me, if you're not sorted and if you don't have an answer today, you'll figure it out. You should have figured it out partly by your postgrad. And trust me, even in the first few years of your job, you'll still be questioning yourself if you should have done something else. So I would say it's okay to not know the answers. It's okay to be confused. Do what you enjoy and do a fab job of it, is what I would suggest.
Absolutely. There's another question from one of the students saying that, how could getting into HR benefit me? I quite not understand the question, but I think the student is wanting to understand more in terms of what kind of opportunities can be there for the student. So, Soumya, if you could just share in terms of what kind of opportunities, roles, industries are possible for the students who are embarking their journey in HR.
Sure. So trust me, any organization worth its salt that is professional, and trust me, HR is one of the first people that gets hired in a company after the finance guy, because the HR guy will then do the hiring and put the rest of the org together. So it is one of the early and critical hirings, right? Now, every organization worth its salt, they have an HR team. This cuts across industries, this cuts across geographies, this cuts across sectors, right? In the olden days or in the government verticals, this could be called personnel management. It could be called IR management if you're dealing with laborers or junior workforce. In more white-collar companies, this is called HR management or people management or the people function. And of course, names can keep changing and, nomenclature can get as fancy as it is. So I think this is a function. The great thing about HR is that it really is a fairly horizontal function. While there are industry nuances, labor laws largely remain the same across industries. Great HR practices remain the same. Your comparator group may differ, but 80 or 90% of HR remains the same, whether you're working in IT versus whether you're working in manufacturing or you're working in, hospitality or anywhere else. From an opportunity standpoint, from a role standpoint, there are multiple roles. You could be an HR business partner, or you could be in HR operations. These are roles that pretty much do everything for a given geography. You could be a talent acquisition leader, which means you hire people into the company. You ensure that they're like, companies to be successful need a great product market fit, which means that they need to create products that the market wants, that people want. Similarly, the TA or the talent acquisition folks need to ensure that we get employees which are great for us, that there is an employee company fit, right? Or you could be a rewards person who manages the compensation philosophy for the company, right? Or you could be a learning leader, or you could be a trainer who manages leadership development or organizational capability building right? Or coaching for senior leaders. You could be a statutory compliance guy who manages labor laws and compliance around those for the firm. You could be into payroll, where you're managing compensation payout on a day-to-day basis, right? So there are multiple roles. There are roles which we call generalist roles, which mean you do a little bit of everything, or there are specialist roles or COEs. It is the Dave Ulrich model, a very famous model in the HR fraternity. COEs mean centers of excellence. This means these are deep specialists who studies theories and models in their areas and apply them in their day jobs. And lastly, the answer to that question would be that HR is a function that pays well, depending on where you are and what you do. You could be a very well-paid HR leader, or you could be a poorly paid HR leader, depending on what value you bring to the table. Similarly, you could be a very well-paid sales guy or a very well-paid marketing guy, or you could be a not so well-paid marketing or sales guy. Today, HR leaders are drawing compensation and stock options and benefits which are at par with all other functions. So I would say that this is an area where opportunities abound, and the industry is looking for good HR talent.
Absolutely. I think that was very well summarized, Soumya, and that really shows that there are a plethora of opportunities across industries, across organizations, and within the organization, there's so much to do within this space. And there's one more interesting question that a student has asked, and I think this can end the session at a very light note, saying that, can an HR professional become a CEO?
Yes. Have you heard of the latest Hindustan Unilever? I think everybody, Hindustan Unilever really is the market in the FMCG space. If you heard of their HR head, she has become the CEO for Chanel, which is a French luxury brand. So I would say that, you could become a CEO. Totally depends on how you build your career and where your interests lie. And like I said before, Leena Nair, if she could go on from becoming from being the head of HR for Hindustan Unilever in India to becoming the worldwide CEO of Chanel, then I think more power to the function. And I hope many more CEOs come from the HR stream.
Wonderfully said, Soumya. So thanks a lot, Soumya, once again for joining in today and accepting my request. It was great interacting with you, and it was amazing to know so much about the HR space. I'm sure the students and parents who joined today would have been enriched by your experiences, and we cannot thank you enough for sharing your valuable time. Wishing you all.
Thank you so much. It was lovely to be here. I wish everybody all the very best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We move on to our next segment, which is government services, and a very, very coveted segment